Hilchos Ishus Perek Tisha Asar. The Laws of Marriage, chapter 19. We're going to discuss today two more post-marriage halachic concepts. These are things that a husband commits when he gets married, that in case he dies, two conditions are going to happen. Number one is the case that we've actually seen a couple of times mentioned, but today we're going to explore it in detail, the Ketubah of the male children. That means if a husband had two wives, to each one he promised a different amount of money. They died before him. Even though all the money returns to him, when he dies, the kids get to claim first their mother's original ketubah money and then divide the rest of the estate. That's called in halacha ketubat benin dichrin, the ketubah of the male sons. The second concept we're going to learn about today is what's called banot nizonot, which means every husband going into a marriage stipulates that if he dies, all of his daughters that are underage are going to get to be fed and supported from his estate until they either reach majority, 12 and a half years old, or they get married. And that's where we're going today, to explore those two concepts. Halacha Aleph, mitnoi haksuba. One of the conditions written in the kesubah, or understood to be part of the kesubah, is sheyiyu banim hascharim, that any male children, yershim ksubas iman, una dunyasa, sheyichnisa b'teiras nichse tzayin barzel, that the male children will always inherit the amount, the worth of their mother's ketubah and any properties which she brought into the marriage as iron sheep properties. Iron sheep properties means the properties which the husband volunteers to take care of at a fixed value. He gets any losses, he gets any profits, and if the marriage dissolves, he has to return the base value of the properties. So those properties as well, these male children get first rights to inheritance. And only afterwards do they divide the rest of the estate as an inheritance equal with other brothers from other wives. As the Rambam describes it right now. Beis, Ketzat. What does this look like? Nasa Isha, a man marries a woman. Ksubasa u'dunyasa elef. The money promised to her in the Ketubah and the property she brings into the marriage comes to a value of $1,000. So we have 1K. Over here for the first wife, her Ketubah is worth 1K. She gives birth to a child, this is the boy, and she dies. Then he marries a second wife, much less in the Ketubah value here. Her Ketubah and her property that she brought into the marriage only equals $200. So we have 1,000 on this side, 200 on this side. She also gave birth to a child, and she also died. So now, technically, because the wives have died, the rights to the ketubah go back to the husband. He no longer seemingly owes this money anymore. Then he dies, and he leaves over $2,000 total of property. So what do? Technically, you should divide it in half, equally. This guy should walk away with 1,000, and that guy walks away with 1,000. No, we don't do that. First of all, the son from the first marriage first gets the 1,000. That was in his mother's ketubah. And the son of the second woman gets the 200 in her mother's ketubah. And the other 800, they divide equally. 400 this way, 400 that way. Nimsa, at the end of the day, it comes out, biyad ben harishayna elef v'arba meyes, biyad ben hashniya sheish meyes. The first kid is walking away with $1,400, and the second kid is walking away with only $600.
But it's not fair to the other.
Too bad. So long as after you pay out the two ketubot, there's some money left in the pot, that's the money to which we apply the rule of regular inheritance, and they divide it in half. Gimel, bamed dvarim amurim. When do we apply this law of first paying out the ketubot and then dividing the rest of the inheritance? B'shehiniach yoyser al kedei shtei ksubos dinar echad o yoyser. So long as the husband, the father, left in his estate even one coin more than the worth of both ketubot. So that remainder can be divided equally. But if he didn't even leave one coin left over, then you ignore this rabbinic rule and you divide it all equally. Why? Let's say over here, right? Let's say in this case, let's say instead of the guy leaving 2K, he would leave only $1,200. There was only enough to pay out the 1,000 and the 200. then we don't do this rule. Then we divide it equally. Why? Because if you're going to say that each one should inherit the mother's ketubah, you know what's going to happen? And there isn't even one coin left to divide between the inheritors, the heirs. It turns out that this rabbinic condition is nullifying the biblical law of inheritance. What's the biblical law of inheritance? Kids divide the property equally. Here you're saying because of a rabbinic decree, you should go 1,200. That isn't Torah law. So if you have more money than that, if you can pay the 1,000, pay the 200, and there's another coin that you can divide equally, so you can say, on that coin, the biblical inheritance falls. But if there isn't even one extra coin, the whole thing gets canceled, and you have to revert back to the biblical law. For who hadin, says the Rambam, halacha daled, the same thing applies. Lamisha nasa nashim rabbis. I gave you an example of 2 wives. The truth is, what if he has 3 wives or 4 wives? Same principle. Bein bezu acharzu, bein bebasachas, whether he marries them one after another or all at once. Umesu kulan b'chaya v'loy mehen banim scharim. If they all die in his lifetime and he leaves male children from each of them, im hayasham yoyser al kedei kol haksubais dinar. If there was over and above all the ketubot amount totally combined, if there was 1 coin more than that, kol echad ve'echad yerish ksubas imay, each son will get the ketubah first of his mother, the hashar chilkin b'shava, and the rest they'll divide equally, so it works out better for the kids because they walk away with the money that their mother was promised.
What is his vote? Is this time what's supposed to be? Is that 2 cases, then 1 case?
That we saw 2 days ago. If a husband leaves less property than the ketubot, so we saw it goes by first come first serve. Whoever has the earliest date, they get to collect the ketubah first. Otherwise, the rest of them just go home. And if the guy gets more property later, sure, but in the meantime, no. So consider the following case. Halacha hey, amru hayusaymin. The boys, they know this law. They know that if their father only has enough for the ketubot, they're going to have to divide it equally. And it's this case over here. One wife has 1,000, the other wife only has 200. And the father, let's say, only left $1,200. So this guy knows that now he's going to lose some money. So what does he say? He's like, you know what? Let me give a gift to my father. I'll give him 1 coin. All he needs to give him. I'm going to add 1 coin to the value of my father's property, and now he'll have 1,201. Good. Now we can divide it, and I'll get my full ketubah of 1,000. So that he can take the ketubah of his mother. Says the Rambam, ein shaymin lahen. We don't listen to those orphans. We go to court, get an appraisal. How much was the property worth when the father died? And that's it. And even if the property goes up in value, lower in value after the death, before they divide it, and we only appraise it based on the value at time of death, and that's it. If there's more than the ketubot, good, pay them out, divide the rest. If there's less or exactly the amount, then the law doesn't apply, and divide the inheritance equally. Halacha vav hayasham yoiser. Let's say it was a good case. 1,000 to one, 200 to the other, he leaves 2K. Classic case. Seemingly he should go, 1,200. But what if there's another guy coming, a lender, creditor? He says, your father owed me $800. So now if you pay that lender, he's only going to have 1,200 left, so you would think to divide it equally. Says the Rambam, no. The fact that there's a creditor with a claim doesn't lessen the property value. Each son gets the money of his mother's ketubah, and it's fine. A lender doesn't take it away, doesn't take on the value. Let's switch the case a bit, a little variation. A person was married to 2 wives, but instead of both of them dying in his lifetime, one died in his lifetime, the second one only died after he died. So it goes, wife dies, husband dies, wife dies. He has kids from both of them. And let's say it was a case where he didn't leave more than the 2 ketubot. He has exactly $1,200 to his name. So here, let's remind ourselves of a law we learned before, 2-3 days ago. Whenever a widow comes to collect her ketubah, husband dies and she wants to get the money, she needs to go to court and take an oath, a shivua, because maybe the husband gave her the money, maybe she took some of the money for herself. She has to first swear that she never got it. So here, first wife dies, husband dies. At this point, the second wife is a widow, she's still alive. If she had a chance to swear to her money, Im nishba hashniya shvuas almana kodim shetamus. If the second wife took the oath of the widow before she died, baneha koidmim liyirushas ksubasa. Her kids come first to inherit the ketubah. Why? Because in this case, they're getting it biblically. They're not taking the mother's ketubah because of the rabbinic condition. In the case where a husband dies and he has to pay out a ketubah to his live wife, that's a biblical inheritance. So in this case, even if he only left $1,200, let's say it was this mother who died second, she swore this kid will walk away first with $200 before anything else is divided. And then if there's leftover money, the first kids can take their mother's ketubah with this condition. If anything else left over and above that, they'll divide the rest equally. But the point is, here there's a biblical inheritance that comes first because they're inheriting on their mother who made an oath of a widow. What if she didn't? If she died before she had a chance to swear, even though she died after the husband, the first kids are the ones who get their mother's ketubah, and that's it. The rest are divided equally because the mother died. She didn't take an oath. We have to be worried maybe the father did pay out her ketubah, and so she walks away, or the kids walk away with less money. These kids will get their mother's ketubah. Those kids will not. Halacha ches. He's married to two wives. A new case now. He has kids from each one. He dies first. So first we had both wives die before him. Then we had one wife dies before and one wife dies after him. Here, he dies before both of them. He dies, then the wives die. So same laws apply. If the widows swore, and before they had a chance to die, each of the kids, because their mother took the oath, they're entitled to their mother's ketubah biblically, and so they walk away with a biblical inheritance. So we don't care if there's extra, no extra, doesn't matter. And in this case, because it's all biblical inheritance, we go first come, first serve. The woman that got married first, her kids take money first. Got married second, take money second. If they didn't have a chance to swear yet, then it's back to basic law. Everybody divides the money equally. The Ein Sham Yerushas Ksuba, in this case, no ketubah can be inherited because the mothers were alive after their husband died. They could have swore they didn't. A widow has no rights to a ketubah document until she swears. Since she didn't swear and she died, the rights are out. Halacha tes. Achas nishba va'achas loy nishba. Same case as before. The husband dies before both of his wives, but only one has a chance to take an oath, the other one doesn't. Zusha nishba b'na yershin ksuba satchila. The woman who had a chance to swear, her kids walk away with the ketubah money first. And the rest they divide equally. Any case in the last 9 halachot where a boy walks away with his mother's ketubah money, he could never expropriate properties that are under lien. Only from free properties. In other words, only properties that are under his father's estate right now he can take from. He can't go after a buyer and take the property away and say, oh, my dad owed my mother a ksuba. No. If his father has it now, he can take it. Otherwise, he cannot. Okay, so that covers the laws of the first part of the chapter, male children inheriting their mom's ketubot. Now we move on to another category, what's called the other condition of banot nizonot. Daughters get supported from their father's estate until their marriage. It's a bit inaccurate. I should say until their marriage or until they become majors. 12 and a half. Says the Rambam, halacha yudu mitnoi ksuba. Another condition in the ketubah is shatiyano habonis nizonis minichse avi and achar moisai. Any daughters that remain in the home after a father passes away are able to get support from his property after his death ad sheyisarsu or ad sheyivguru, until either they're consecrated by another man, someone gives them kiddushin, or until they reach majority bogeret. Bogra habas afal pisha loy nisarsa, once she reaches majority, even if she wasn't consecrated, oy nisarsa afal pisha loy bogra, or she became consecrated, even if it's before majority, ein la mizaynis, she no longer gets to be fed from her father's estate. When a daughter does get supported from her father's estate after his death, any money she produces from her handiwork or any objects she finds on the road go to herself, not to the brothers. Typically, we said that the idea of providing food comes in exchange for providing handiwork or mitziot. but that's only to a husband. Once the father dies, the brothers cannot say to their sisters, hey, you're getting money from the estate, give us back your handiwork money or your mitziot. No. Now it's in her possession, she finds something, she gets to keep it, she makes money, she gets to keep it. Yud Aleph, Paiskin Labas, Mezaynes, Uksus, Umadar, Menichse Avia, Kederach She Paiskin La'almana. Food and support doesn't just mean food. Food means food, clothing, a place to dwell, place to live from her father's estate. The same way you go for the widow. The same way you sell property of the husband to feed the widow and to clothe her, you also sell to feed the daughters and to clothe them with no announcement. Ella with one difference. A woman gets the standards of her social standing or her husband's social standing, even if it's more than usual. Daughters only get things that are enough for them. I don't care about your social standing. As long as you're going to survive, we'll take care of you on that level. And daughters are also not required to take an oath. Unlike a widow who has to take an oath before she gets her stuff, daughters don't take an oath. They simply just get their food. Says the Rambam a general rule that applies to both concepts that we learned so far. The male children don't get to inherit their mom's ketubot, and the daughters don't get to take food with these conditions unless they can provide the marriage document to show that their mom was married. Otherwise, maybe she was divorced. If there is no ketubah document, they get nothing. Maybe the mom pardoned the ketubah. Maybe she gave the rights back to the husband. Except, we've seen before that in some countries, they didn't write a ketubah. It was just an understanding. You went into a marriage on the assumption that you're going to keep all the rules. So if they didn't write a ketubah, then yeshla and kefiyat tanai, and then the children are entitled to whatever it is based on the conditions. Halacha Yud Gimel. Misha tziva bishas misasai lakar echad mitnoi ksuba. A person gives the command, the will, on his deathbed to uproot one of the conditions. Kigoin Sha'amar, for example, he's about to die and he says, Al yizaynu b'neisav min nechasav. I don't want my daughters to get any food from my estate. Or Al tizen almanasim min nechasav. Or I don't want my widow to get fed from my estate. Or Al yirshu banav ksubas iman. Or I don't want my sons to get the ketubah of their mother. Ein shoymin lei, we do not listen to him. You aren't allowed to. You don't have the power to make a stipulation that goes against the ketubah. Nasan kol nechasav v'matana la'achirim. What if you didn't say, I don't want my kids to get? All you did was, you gave a gift of your entire estate to somebody else. So nothing left for your kids. So the truth is, there is a concept called matnas shchiv mera. Shchiv mera means a person on his deathbed. So matnat shchiv mera means gifts allocated on a deathbed. Typically, the rabbis give a lot of power to a guy on his deathbed. You can say whatever you want, even if it's not written, even if it's not recorded. You just say, I want this guy to get my house, this guy to get my buildings, and it all works. However, it only goes into effect at the moment of death. So the Rambam says, since a gift of a sickly person only goes into effect after death, the moment he dies, the gift that he gave plus his obligation to his daughters come into effect at once. So even though he tried to get rid of it, it doesn't work. His wife and his daughters will still be able to pull from the estate. Also, the male children could get the ketubah of their mother that came from their mother's ketubah when they died in his father's lifetime. Why? Because your gift and the obligation come into effect at once. Yudalit. Bas hamimoenes. What if the husband has a daughter, not from a regular marriage, but from a marriage to a girl who did mi'un? Remember that if a girl gets married before she's 12 years old, no divorce is needed to dissolve the marriage. All she has to say is, I don't want to live with him anymore. She has to refuse, and then it's over. But what if she has a daughter, and she refuses the marriage? That daughter is like a regular daughter, and she gets fed from the estate. Now, almost all the commentaries here argue on the Rambam, because if a kid got married when they were underage, how do they have a daughter?
Could be.
How does a girl who's 10 years old have a daughter?
Even I know 2 generations before, at 9 they got married and they had kids.
At 9 they had kids?
10? They got married at 9.
I don't think so.
They had kids at 10.
12 you can have a kid. According to halacha, you don't have a kid before 12. But nevertheless, the Rambam writes, there's different explanations how it comes about, but that's the point. Aval bas hayivama, but the daughter of a woman who went into levirate marriage. That means a husband died childless, the woman married the brother, and they had a girl. Now we're going to see the way it works is that when a husband dies childless, his entire estate goes to the brother who does yibum, and the yavam, that brother, doesn't have to write a ketubah to the woman. So now there's a catch-22. Yeah. When a husband dies childless, and the brother has to marry the woman, yibum, the entire estate of the dead husband goes to the brother, because he's taking over the marriage. And when he goes into the marriage, no need to write a ketubah. No need to write a marriage document.
So the other ketubah is valid?
In a way, exactly, it kind of carries over. All the obligations of the previous husband carry over to the father. So now there's a catch-22. If they have a girl now, she gets nothing. Because, or I should say, she gets nothing from the original guy's estate. From the dead husband, his estate doesn't have to pay for it. Because it wasn't his daughter, and the new husband didn't write a ketubah. The whole idea of giving kids support is a condition in the ketubah. He didn't write a ketubah, so he's not obligated. Ubas hashniya. Also, if a person marries somebody that he wasn't allowed to marry rabbinically, and they had a girl, doesn't get anything. Ubas ha'arusa, a daughter of an engaged woman. They had relations before they officially got married, and they had a daughter. Ubas ha'anusa, daughter of a raped woman. Person raped somebody, they have a daughter. According to the Torah, the rapist has to marry the woman, and there's no ketubah. So there's no ketubah. Well, it's counterintuitive. Because he has to live with her the rest of her life, the whole idea of a ketubah was made, so you shouldn't divorce your wife, right? But he can't divorce her. So therefore there's no need for a ketubah.
But if the case then is a married woman,
Huh?
there's a from
Well, hold on. So because there's no ketubah in all of these cases, ein lahen mezainis achar misa savian b'tnai zeh. The daughters, unfortunately, don't get any food on this condition because there is no ketubah. Aval b'chayei avian, but during the life of the father, the daughter of the raped girl, the daughter of the forbidden marriage, the daughter of all these cases, while he's alive, yes, he has to feed them. He's obligated to support them the same way any father with his daughters, even if they came about illegitimately. But after the death, because there's no ketubah, they don't walk away with anything. Tesvav. If somebody steps in, he knows there's a girl who her father died, and she's getting food from the father's estate, and he gives her a ring. A very rare halacha. He is now obligated to feed her the moment he gives her the ring. Usually, a husband's obligation to support his wife only begins at the actual marriage. But here, because by giving her a ring, he's taking her out of the father's estate, because remember, the girl only gets supported till she gets a ring. So it says that Rambam, you have to feed her now. At this point, she no longer gets money from her brothers. She also isn't a major to be able to feed herself. She's a child or just the beginning of puberty. No husband, no self-respecting husband wants his new wife, to go and beg for money at the doors. So you have to feed her the moment you give her the ring. If the girl gets married, and the marriage dissolved, either she refused the marriage, she got a divorce, she became a widow, even if she's waiting for her dead husband's brother to marry her because of yibum, if she comes back to her father's house before majority, she can keep on getting food from her father's estate till she reaches majority, till she gets married again. So the marriage in this case doesn't cancel her rights. If the marriage ends, she goes back to her rights. Yud Zayin. A person dies and he leaves sons and daughters. So now the daughters have to still get fed, but the sons are the real inheritors from the Torah. So what do? Yirshu habanim kol hanechasim. The sons get all the property. And they become responsible to feed their sisters till they get majority or till they get married. When do we say that the responsibility passes to the sons? If the father left enough property to feed both the sons and the daughters till they reach age of majority. These are called lots of property. But what if you don't have enough property? You look at the money, you say it's not going to feed the kids till they get majority if we give the money to the boys. So here, women's rights comes first. First, the court takes away enough money to feed the daughters till they reach majority. And then whatever's left goes to the boys. If there's only enough to feed the daughters, the daughters get the food until they become a major, until they become married. And the men should go ask for money at the doors. We'd rather men get embarrassed than women. If there's only enough money to cover the women, give it to her, let the boys go ask for money. When do we say this? If the father left land property, real estate. But if all he left was movable property, since it's only a gaonic enactment, daughters get to have food also from movable property. Here, we don't give the woman first rights, you go equal. Sons and daughters inherit equally. The only reason the sages gave them rights and movable property is to be like the boys. They can't be better than the boys. Because that's how actually the Gaonim actually ruled when it came to this matter. The man left real estate, lots of property, enough to feed them both, and then they went down in value. 2008 crash, real estate went down. Since the sons already took possession, it's theirs. If they were worth less and then real estate went up, the boys can step in and take the money, take the land. Truth is, even if it didn't get more in value. If the boys weren't so nice and they stepped in and sold the property and got some money, the sale is valid. A father left lots of property, but he also left lots of creditors. People are after him for the property. Or he made a clear condition with his wife that he's going to feed the daughter no matter what. Those loans or those extra conditions do not depreciate the value of the property. If there's enough property at its face value, the boys get everything, and then later you pay the creditor, and they can provide for their stepsister until whenever time that the father promised. And their regular sisters get money also till they get married, till they get major, till they reach majority, and then they leave their property. But the point is, if the core value of the property was enough for everybody, even if there's other reasons that's going to get spent, it doesn't matter. The boys take jurisdiction and they give out all the funds. A husband leaves a widow and a daughter. There's no boys, just a wife and a daughter. And there isn't enough to feed them both. The wife gets first rights, the daughter goes to ask for money. So too I say, says the Rambam, my own ruling, that if it's this case, the first case in today's chapter, where there's a son waiting to get his mother's Ketubah, and there's a daughter who needs to get fed, she comes before. Even if they're both promised as conditions in the Ketubah. Girl gets first rights. Why? It's logical. If biblical inheritance gets pushed away in the face of a daughter, the boys don't get any money if the girl needs to have food. Should this rabbinic condition not get pushed away in the face of a girl who needs food? Biblical stuff are pushed away. For sure, rabbinic stuff. A person dies and he leaves only daughters, adult and minors, no sons. We don't say, let's give the younger daughters first food till they reach majority, and the rest are divided equally. No. If it's only daughters, they all divide equally, and each one takes care of herself.